I hate bugs. I hate all kinds of insects, such as flies, bees, even mosquitoes. But the one insect that I hate most of all is the common cockroach. To me, a cockroach is the scariest and most disgusting insect of them all. Ever since I was a kid and I saw a cockroach crawl on my food, I've always hated those kinds of bugs. The thought of something like that crawling on my body just gives me the creeps. I didn't know it when I was little, but one day, my worst nightmare would come true in the most horrifying way that I could have ever imagined. Once I was all grown up, I moved out of my parents' house, and I moved into a house of my own. At first, I thought that it was the perfect house for me to live in. But I was mistaken. One day, when I was getting ready to eat some spaghetti in the comfort of my new home, I saw a cockroach crawling on the table. Naturally, I freaked out when I saw it. I grabbed one of my shoes and I crushed the cockroach until it was dead. I used a clean napkin to wrap the cockroach up and threw it in the trash. I thought that would be the end of it. But my nightmare was just beginning. After I threw the cockroach in the trash, I saw 2 more roaches on the floor. I grabbed a can of Raid to spray them, and those roaches died too. But then, I saw even more roaches appear as they were crawling all over the floor. Soon, my house became infested with roaches. It was like no matter what I did, they just kept coming. It wasn't long until I was dealing with an army of roaches. After I realized that they were too much of a problem for me to handle on my own, I decided to call an exterminator to get rid of the roaches. When the exterminator got to my house, he was beyond terrified by what he saw. He said that he'd never seen an infestation like mine in over 25 years. It was horrible, truly horrible. The exterminator used his insecticide to kill half of the roaches. The other half managed to scatter and escape through some cracks and holes in the walls. The exterminator sprayed the cracks and the holes to make sure that the roaches wouldn't come back. He sprayed all around the house. The only place left to spray was the basement. I opened the door to the basement to let the exterminator in, so that he could spray down there and put an end to my roach problem for good. Once the door was open, the exterminator was confident that these would be the last of the roaches. But he was wrong. The exterminator went in, spraying the last of his insecticide all over the basement to make sure that he killed the rest of the roaches. As he was spraying, I let out a sigh of relief. I thought that my cockroach nightmare was finally over. Then suddenly, the spraying stopped, and everything was quiet. At first, I thought that meant that the exterminator had finished his job and killed the rest of the roaches. I called out to him, asking if he was done, but there was no answer. I called out to him again, but still the exterminator didn't respond. I slowly walked down into the basement, where I saw the exterminator at the foot of the stairs standing motionlessly. He was trembling with fear, and I didn't know why. I asked him if he was okay, as I put my hand on his shoulder. The exterminator whispered to me in a fearful tone,
"Run. Get out of here before it's too late."
I was confused by what he meant. I didn't understand what he meant until I saw what he was staring at that made him so scared. I too was struck with fear when I saw what he was looking at. In the center of my basement, just 5 feet away from us, there were a dozen giant cockroach larvae squirming around on the floor as if they were getting ready to emerge from their cocoons. They were big as a dog. I was so scared by what I saw that I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I'd never seen something like this before. I didn't know what to do, and the exterminator was just as scared as I was. In fact, he was so scared that he dropped his insecticide on the ground, and he didn't have the courage to pick it up, for fear of what might happen if he did. As I was about to grab the exterminator by his shoulder to help lead him to the stairs, something even more horrible was down there with us. From out of the shadows, a beautiful woman appeared, but she didn't look human. This woman had brown hair, 2 antennae on her head, black, soulless compound eyes similar to the eyes of an insect, 4 arms, and she had the wings of a cockroach on her back. The exterminator and I were speechless. We didn't know who or what this creature was, or what it was doing in my basement, but we knew one thing. We had to get out of there quickly. Unfortunately, just as we were about to turn around, more of her children emerged from behind her. These roaches were even bigger than the ones in the center, and they looked as if they were ready for their meal. Then, without warning, the Roach Queen, as I now call her, pointed her finger towards us, and she let out a big hiss. Before we could react, her children immediately started crawling towards us with so much speed that we had no choice but to run back up the stairs and get out while we could. The exterminator sprayed his insecticide on the giant roaches, but for some reason, it didn't work. The insecticide didn't have any effect on them at all. Even the Roach Queen wasn't affected by it. It was as if they were all immune to it somehow. I managed to get away, but the exterminator wasn't as lucky as I was. I looked back and watched in horror as the Roach Queen's children devoured the exterminator alive. I could hear the exterminator screaming for me to help him from under the horde of roaches that were eating his flesh. I wanted to help him. Truly, I did. But there was nothing that I could do for him. When the roaches were done with him, they left the exterminator's body nothing but a lifeless husk of bones. Then, they crawled up the stairs, coming straight towards me. I turned around and started running again. As soon as I got to the top of the stairs, I closed the door to the basement, and I locked it from the outside. I could hear the giant roaches as they were banging on the door, in a desperate attempt to get out so that they could eat me, too. After I locked the basement door, I grabbed my keys, got into my car, and drove as far away from that godforsaken house as possible, and I never went back. I drove all the way to my parents' house and told them about what happened to me. I told them all about the Roach Queen and the giant cockroaches, but they didn't believe me. They thought that I was making it all up. Then my parents started laughing at me, thinking that I was joking around. But as they were laughing, I heard scratching noises and a hissing sound coming from outside. I turned around slowly, and I knew that it could only mean 2 things. The Roach Queen and her children had somehow escaped, and they'd followed me all the way to my parents' house. When I matched with Shelby, I thought I'd found someone truly special. We met on a Bumby dating app, just your typical swipe right kind of place. Nothing about her profile screamed bug lover, which was a relief. See, I've always had a deep, gut-level fear of insects. Instant panic. Shelby seemed perfect, and after a week of talking, I was hooked. So, when she suggested we meet in person, I pushed my fear aside and said yes. It was just one irrational phobia after all. What could possibly go wrong? On our first date, Shelby brought along a companion. A Madagascar hissing cockroach that she introduced with a gentle smile. She stroked its shiny black-brown shell as though it were a kitten.
"This is Manny,"
she said, extending the roach towards me. I smiled, swallowing my surprise. A roach as a pet felt a little unconventional, but I couldn't deny her passion. She was different, unique, and I was intrigued.
"I like roaches because when they crawl on my arms, they tickle me.
She murmured, running her fingers down Manny's back.
And when I hold them, they make me feel happy."
Her smile widened and she tilted her head toward me.
"Want to try holding him? You might find it addictive."
I tried not to let my discomfort show. Shelby was special, and if she found joy in these creatures, who was I to judge? Tentatively, I held out my hand. But before I could muster the courage, she retracted Manny with a knowing chuckle.
"Maybe later,"
she teased, her eyes sparkling. The evening flowed, and before I knew it, she was inviting me to her home. She said it was close by and, well, the night was young. I was curious, a little smitten, and before I could talk myself out of it, I agreed. Shelby's house was small and tucked away down a narrow, dark street. I followed her in, and the moment we stepped inside, I noticed something peculiar. At first, I couldn't tell what it was, but then I saw movement, a large shadow shifting near the floor. I blinked, thinking I must have imagined it.
"Don't worry,
Shelby whispered, her voice soft and calm.
they're just a little excited. They've been waiting to meet you."
As my eyes adjusted, I saw them. Cockroaches. Massive cockroaches, each nearly 3 feet tall, skittering across the floor. Some even stood on their hind legs, chittering in a way that sounded almost like laughter. Shelby walked forward and petted one of them, like it was her pet dog. It shuddered under her touch, its body quivering in what looked disturbingly like affection.
"Say hello to my family."
She said, looking over her shoulder at me, her eyes gleaming. "Family?" I stammered, inching back as one of the cockroaches leaned toward me, its antennae twitching. The sight of its segmented body, its cold, gleaming eyes, sent a chill down my spine. I fought the urge to flee. Shelby reached out, taking my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong.
"Come on, they're friendly,"
she said, her tone soothing yet oddly commanding. She guided me into her bedroom, where the scene only grew more grotesque. Her bed was covered in them, hundreds of cockroaches of all sizes, crawling over each other in a sea of writhing bodies. With a contented sigh, Shelby lay down on the bed, letting them swarm over her, their legs and antennae moving in a strange rhythm as if massaging her. She looked at me with a smile of pure satisfaction, patting the bed beside her.
"Lie down with me.
She urged.
You'll feel them relax you. It's like a massage."
I wanted to leave. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to run, but her eyes held me captive, and something about her confidence, her sheer conviction, made me feel almost compelled to stay. Trembling, I lowered myself onto the bed, and the instant I touched it, the cockroaches began crawling up my arms and legs, their tiny legs prickling my skin. I clenched my jaw, trying to hold still. Shelby took my hand, her touch warm and reassuring.
"Just relax."
She whispered. I took a shaky breath, attempting to let go of my revulsion, but just then, a cockroach launched itself from her shoulder, straight at my face. When I came to, I was no longer lying down. My arms were stretched above my head, bound tightly to the wall, my feet dangling off the floor. I tried to scream, but a sticky substance covered my mouth, muting my voice. Shelby stood across from me, clapping her hands in delight.
Oh, you're awake! Welcome to Shelby's amazing cockroach show.
My mind reeled as she put the helmet into the roaches, then grinned like a showman ready to begin an act.
For our first trick,
She announced.
we're going to launch Manny here through a hoop of fire, right onto our star. Ron!
No! I tried to scream, but it came out as a muffled grunt. I watched in horror as she placed Manny, the giant cockroach, into the cannon, lit a small flame in front of it, and with a loud boom, Manny shot through the air, passing through the ring of fire and landing on my face. Its legs scratched my skin as it clung to me, its cold, slimy body pressing against me. Shelby laughed, a wild, gleeful sound.
Let's see how many more we can fit.
One by one, she loaded cockroach after cockroach into the cannon, firing them at me with sadistic glee. They stuck to me, their bodies writhing and squirming, covering me from head to toe in a living, churning mass of shells and legs. I felt something sharp, a bite, followed by another. A strange warmth began spreading through me, a sickening, feverish heat that made my skin crawl even beneath the roaches. My vision blurred as Shelby's laughter filled the room, and a voice echoed in my head, repeating her words from earlier.
Welcome to my family.
Brazil was everything I dreamed it would be. Warm sun, vibrant music, and miles of golden sand stretching as far as the eye could see. Miles, my best friend and perpetual thrill-seeker, had planned every detail of our trip. He swore up and down it would be life-changing. So, when he suggested we visit a unique, authentic snake massage spa, I hesitated. The very mention of snakes made my stomach churn. But Miles laughed off my concerns.
Come on, man.
He said, grinning from ear to ear.
It's all the rage. People say it's therapeutic. Plus, what's the point of a vacation if we don't try something crazy?
Against my better judgment, I agreed. The spa was tucked away in a narrow alley, its faded sign barely legible under the dim streetlights. The door creaked ominously as we entered, and the air inside was thick with the mingling scents of incense and damp earth.
Relax.
Miles said, clapping me on the shoulder.
It's supposed to feel ancient, authentic.
The receptionist, a tall woman with piercing green eyes, led us into a room that looked like a jungle terrarium. Vines hung from the ceiling, and the ground slithered. Hundreds of snakes of varying sizes and colors writhed on the floor, their scales catching the dim light like tiny shards of glass. Okay, nope, I'm out. I whispered, my voice cracking, but Miles was already stepping out of his shoes.
They're harmless, non-venomous. Just let them crawl around a bit. It's supposed to be good for circulation.
He lowered himself onto the snake-covered floor, leaning back with a satisfied sigh as the creatures began slithering over his legs.
See? Totally fine.
He said, waving me over. My body refused to move, but Miles's teasing was relentless. Eventually, I convinced myself to take a single step. The moment my bare foot touched the floor, the cold, slimy texture of a snake's scales brushed against my skin. I froze. Another snake curled around my ankle, its tiny, harmless bite sending a strange, tingling sensation up my leg. My heart raced, but as more snakes swarmed around me, I began to feel oddly numb.
Not so bad, right?
Miles grinned. I wanted to scream at him, but my throat was dry. The next phase of the treatment was supposed to be deep relaxation. We were led to 2 massage tables and instructed to lie face down. The room was dark now, lit only by flickering candles. The snakes had been cleared from the floor, but the eerie hissing sound remained, echoing faintly through the walls. As I lay there, the sensation of something smooth and heavy rolling across my back made me shudder. "It's just part of the process," I whispered to myself. "Breathe. It's fine." For a moment I managed to relax. The weight moving along my spine felt oddly soothing, like a warm compress. But then I felt it slither up my shoulder. "That's not a hand," I muttered, eyes snapping open. The sight that greeted me froze my blood. A massive snake was coiled around Miles, its thick body constricting him like a vice. He looked at me, gasping for air, but he was smiling.
It's fine. These snakes are trained. It's...
His voice broke off into a choking wheeze as the snake tightened its grip. Panic surged through me. "Miles!" I shouted, jumping off the table. But before I could reach him, something heavy dropped onto my back. The impact knocked the air from my lungs. It was another snake. This one was even larger, its muscular body wrapping itself around my chest and shoulders. Its scales were cold and rough, scratching against my skin as it coiled tighter and tighter. I clawed at it, trying to free myself, but the more I struggled, the tighter it squeezed. My vision blurred as my chest heaved. Desperate for air, I could hear Miles screaming now, his voice a hoarse, guttural cry.
Help me!
I tried to look at him, but the snake's tail wrapped around my neck, pinning my head in place. My pulse pounded in my ears as the edges of my vision darkened. With one final burst of adrenaline, I threw myself sideways off the table. The snake's grip loosened just enough for me to suck in a ragged breath. I hit the floor hard, the impact jolting through my ribs, but I was free. For a moment I lay there, gasping and disoriented. Then I heard it, a low, guttural hiss. I turned my head just in time to see the snake lunging toward me, its massive jaws unhinged and gaping wide. I scrambled backward, but there was nowhere to go. The snake's mouth engulfed me, its sharp teeth slicing into my skin as it began to swallow me whole.